All right. So I wanted to share some things with you guys today in regards to some of the conversations that I've been having with my staff over the last couple of days, because just like any other business, right, we ran into kind of a down month last month, and you have to diagnose where the problem is. And you guys can diagnose within yourselves where that problem is on your own. And I want to help you be able to do that. So there were a couple things that we identified that were problematic in the in-person meeting, because our in-person close rate had dropped from what it normally is with the same main salesperson in that role. Okay. So what we did, and what you guys can do if you notice percentages going down, and you should be tracking all of your numbers properly, right? So you should know what your percentages look like month to month, week to week, and base those against your standards so that we can make changes. But the easiest way to determine these changes is to do a role play and look at the pieces that need to be in place in your in-person meeting to actually get somebody across the buying line. Okay. So let's go over these things really quick. There's three main points that are going to be very important and crucial for you to get through that. Now, your scripting is personal to your gym and where you're coming from. So that's not what we're going to correct today. We're not going to dive into the script or change anything with it, but we're going to make sure that we inject these principles of a good sales meeting together to make sure that it's functioning properly. Okay. So we diagnose the issues, and we really boil it down to three things. Okay. And those three things that you need to be doing consistently on every single meeting. And the problem is consistency too, because what we realize is that sometimes at our facility, it's not done every single time. And these things need to be done every single time, especially when you're dealing with cold traffic, right? Especially when you're dealing with cold traffic. We talked about this morning. Anthony and I were talking this morning, and we talked about how there's a big difference between cold traffic, referral, and website leads, right? So we're talking basically direct response, so Facebook for the most part. Facebook, website, and referral are all very different in the way that that client is going to interact with you. So this is very important to do these things every single time, but much more important even for those cold leads that come into that meeting. Okay. So those three things are: number one is creating a buying atmosphere. And I'll talk about how that's scripted in a second. Okay. That's number one. If you're not doing that tactfully and doing that elegantly every time, you're going to run into issues. Okay. Number two is going to be using TPV stories, third-party verification stories, at appropriate times in the meeting, and referring to clients that you already have in your facility. If you don't have a wall like I have behind me of featured clients, create one. Okay. Talk to your boss, create one, right? Talk to TJ and get this up on a wall in your facility if you're doing in-person meetings. Okay. Because you can refer back to them in the middle of your in-person meeting. All right. And then the third part is creating a divide between what you do and what they're currently doing, or what they've done in the past and they quit from. Okay. So those three things need to exist in your sales meeting, basically in that order, right? So I want to dive into each one of those things and give you guys some ammo so that you can take this back to your sales meetings and make sure you're checking these boxes off every single meeting. It's not half the time. It's not sometimes. It's literally every single time. Okay. So, and as we go through this, I'll go through this really quick, and then I'll open it up for questions about how you can implement this, but I'll give you guys some examples. Okay. So number one, creating a buying atmosphere. Now, creating a buying atmosphere was something that was hard for me to conceptualize in the beginning, because I thought it was me telling the client not to buy our service, but that's not true. What you're doing is you're blowing the steam off of the sales meeting and allowing that client to trust you more. Okay. Allowing you to be positioned as an advisor, a trusted advisor in this process to get that person across the buying line. So creating a buying atmosphere sounds something like this. Hey, Mrs. Jones, I don't know yet if this program is the right fit for you, but we've helped a lot of people in a similar situation that you're in get the results they're looking for. And today we're going to figure out if this program is in fact the right fit for you. If it's not, I will politely direct you towards a solution that would work better. Sound fair? Great. Okay. Now, I know that sounds like you're telling them to buy something else, but what you're really doing is you're blowing steam off of the meeting and you're positioning yourself not as a salesman, but as a trusted advisor, as an expert in the industry that can help them get to where they want to go, which opens up the conversation much more in a way that allows them to open up to you so you can actually get down to the nitty gritty and the meat of what they need. Okay. So if you're not using a statement like that, where you say, I don't know if it's a fit yet, or you say something to the effect of, we will walk through together and figure out the best plan for you. It could be with us, maybe it's not. We don't know yet, and we'll figure that out together. Start off the meeting with that as you tell them what is going to happen in the meeting. So tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. That is the structure how the meeting is going to work, because people don't like to be surprised. Okay. So within that first part where you tell them what you're going to tell them, you tell them that you don't know if it's a fit for them yet. It's a very powerful statement in sales. Okay. So that's number one. If you're not dialing that in and doing that in your own way 100% of the time, you need to start. That's number one. Okay. Number two, injecting TPV stories. The easiest way to do that is at some point in the meeting, after you get their goals out and you start to dig deeper into the goals. So you ask them, why are you here? What's the reason that you reached out to us? They tell you their goals. You have one more deep digging question into their goals. And after they answer that question, you say, hey, you know what, Mrs. Jones? You know who you remind me of? Do you mind if I share a story with you really quick? And they'll say yes. And then you say, you remind me of Katie. Katie is a member that's worked out with us for 2 years. And this meeting is really reminding me of her. She's actually been able to lose 60 pounds with us over the last 8 months and loves the gym and has just really changed her life working out with us. I just wanted to let you know that you really remind me of her. This is like a very similar story. So you're not alone in this process, and we know how to help people like you, just like Katie. It's even more powerful if that person is in the gym at the time in which that consult is happening, right? Very, very powerful. In the morning time, we use one of our clients, Deb. She's actually a world record powerlifter and has been working. She's 68. She's been working out with us for like 7 years now. She's always in our 9 a.m. sessions. So if we have a sales meeting in that 9 a.m. time slot, we mention Deb. Then when we take that person out on the floor, they see Deb out on the floor and they saw her picture in the room, right? So it's very powerful to kind of create that social proof in that moment, but it also allows them to feel like they're not alone and feel like you can help them because you've helped people like them. Okay. So that's number two. And it's very easy to say, hey, you mind if I share some with you really quick? You remind me of X. They have a lot of success. Da, 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 da. You can also do this on the phone, right? But it's very powerful in a meeting. Okay. After you ask goals, dive one more step deeper into goals, inject the TPV every single time. Now, if you have to make up a client, you can make up a client. Okay. But it's very powerful to have photos behind you. You can point to them. We literally train our staff to point to the picture. If somebody wants to get off their blood pressure medication or reduce the medication amount that they're taking, we point them directly to Bob. Bob has been training with us for 7 years. He cut his blood pressure and his diabetes medication in half after training with us for 6 months. Okay. Like very powerful stuff. All right. When you get that bit of information that reminds you of a client that's had success, use it and tell them about that client. Okay. And the third thing that we want to do is to make sure that we're creating a divide between what they're doing and what we can give them. So when they give us some information about what they've been doing, what they did in the past, why they quit, create the divide between why they quit and what you do Because why they quit, there's reasons for it, right? They didn't stay accountable to it. They weren't motivated. They didn't like the trainer they were working with. It was too expensive. Their life got in the way. There's other reasons. There's like their trainer didn't pay enough attention to them. They felt like there wasn't enough individual attention. They feel like when they're doing it on their own, they don't have enough accountability or motivation. Attach to those things and say, well, Mrs. Jones, I understand how you must feel, because we see a lot of clients like you that just don't get results doing it the way that you did it. But we have a program here that is going to help you with X issue. We're going to help you with accountability because we won't let you go without coming to the gym more than a week's time. We'll be on the phone calling you and making sure you're getting your butt in the gym, right? Like, oh, personal training one-on-one was expensive. That's why we've designed a small group program, to make sure that we can cut the cost down, but still give you the same value you were experiencing in a one-on-one setting, right? Inject those sentences in there during those times when you're creating the divide, because you have to ask them, what are they doing now? What have they done in the past? What do they like about it? What do they not like about it? Attach to the things they liked about it, distance yourself from the things they didn't like about it, right? And use that as a way to showcase your service and the way that you do it in the meeting, because they need value building in that meeting. And that's where the value is built, from getting that emotional connection and then creating the divide between what you do and what they've done, and especially what they've done and not had success with, and the reasons why they quit, which are very important. So to review really quickly, create a buying atmosphere. I don't know if it's a solution for you yet, but okay. Use TPV stories. You remind me so much of Joe. He's lost 60 pounds over the last 6 months, right? And, oh, you didn't like that? We would never do that here. That's not how we operate, right? Oh, you liked that? We do that and more, right? Then you dive down deep on their goals and then walk them through. The sales meeting is really you going, oh, you want this? Yes? Okay, great. Oh, you want this goal? Yes? Okay, great. You want this thing? Great. And then yes, 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 yes. You get to the offering and you say, you told me you wanted all these things. This is how you get it. How much, like, how frequent would you like to come into the gym, right? You want all this? Great. This is how you get there. I showed you how we get you there. And I showed you how other people like you get there. Okay. So if you're not doing those three things consistently every single time in a sales meeting, you're leaving money on the table and you're leaving people not getting the help that they need. And you're not doing your job as a fitness professional to positively affect the health and lives of the community around you, because you're letting them leave because they don't understand it yet, because you're not connecting with them on their level. And those are the ways that you do it. It's not about the X's and O's of training. It's not about using kettlebells. It's not about your patented evaluation system or any of that. It's about you connecting with them emotionally and telling them they're not alone, and giving them examples of people that have done it with them or done it that look like them or act like them, and then telling them how you are different than what hasn't worked for them in the past. That is the structure, but check those 3 boxes every single time, no matter what your script is. Okay. So I just wanted to present that to you guys really quick, because it was very valuable for our team yesterday when we went over that stuff, because we were missing the mark on some of those things. And you always have to refine it. It's not one of these things where you're going to just set it and forget it and never talk to your team again. As an owner, right? Never talk to your team again. As a sales professional who was on this call, it's not something that you're just going to have all the time, 100% of the time. You need to role play it. You need to pick apart what pieces are missing and dive into those pieces so that you can change the trajectory of your close rate and ultimately make more sales, help more people, and be a better steward of bringing people to your side of the way that we do fitness, as opposed to all the other options which are worse than the option that you have. Okay. So any questions on any of that kind of stuff? Any clarification or comments that you guys have? How well are you doing at doing these things? Are you even doing them on a regular basis? Let's talk about it.
So I wouldn't say that I'm consistent with it. Like I'll throw in a story, like if I actually like, because I'm not really good at coming up with one on the spot and like lying about it.
Right.
But that's something I could work on, like being consistent with having those 3 things in the call. I mean, in person too with them on the assessment.
Yeah. Do you find, Laura, are you saying that you find that you're not consistent with them, or what are you finding?
Yeah, I don't think I'm really consistent with them. Like I might do like 2 out of the 3 or like 1 out of the 3, or then like sometimes none. I feel like it really depends on the person and how well I connect with them, I guess.
Right. And I understand that from your perspective, but the problem is that your connection with that person, how you feel about the meeting, does not get you the result. Right.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah.
That doesn't matter how you feel. It matters how they feel. So how you can ensure that they feel comfortable and they feel heard and they know, like, and trust you is by checking those boxes off. Right. Because you could not connect with a member well at all and still help them tremendously. Right. And they could still be a good client. They could still refer people. And maybe they're just not the type of person that you go out with and have a beer with. Right. But that's okay. So just because you don't vibe with them and they're not like, you're not vibing on a friendship level, doesn't mean you can't vibe with them and help them from a professional sense by using these tactics to get into the deeper reasons of why they're doing it. So that's why we want to make it a standard where you're consistent with it. And that's the problem that Ellen was having as well. It's like, I talked to her about it. I'm like, how frequently are you doing this? She's like, probably 40% of the time. And I'm like, okay, well, that's where the problem is, right? Because it's systemized in that way, where if you make sure you check those boxes, and if you're checking those boxes and you don't quite get the script down entirely, or the questions that you're asking them entirely down, but you check those boxes, you're going to have a better success rate, right? Because those are the things that connect you to the person. So consistency is key. And a lot of people struggle with it. So I'm going to use the tactic on you really quickly. You're not alone in experiencing it. Ellen experiences the same thing, but her close rate improves when she does it more consistently. So this is me getting you to get buy-in into that and doing it more consistently, because she sees better results with it when she does it consistently. So why can't you? Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I'm using the tactic, but sales is everything. I mean, every time you convince somebody of anything, you're selling them, right? Like where you want to go to dinner with Pete that night is like a sale, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Really. So, so it's the same thing, and the same tactics work, right? Oh, well, I want to go try this restaurant because Jen said that it was really good and she had a really good experience there. And, you like Jen, right? You and Jen are friends. So like, let's go there, Pete, right? Like if you wanted to go to this place, but maybe Jen never even tried it, but you could say that. I mean, it's a lie, but I'm not for people lying about stuff, but it's a way to convince Pete to go to this restaurant that you want to go to because there's third-party verification that it's actually good, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's just an example. But anybody else? Who else is on the call? Is Hannah still on here?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Definitely. I'm not consistent with. I actually haven't tried the first part where you kind of started off like that. Is there another way to do that, or is that pretty much like the only thing you can do with creating the buying atmosphere?
So creating a buying atmosphere doesn't necessarily have to be that statement, right? Creating a buying atmosphere has to do with you basically telling them that you're going to guide them down a path that is right for them without the pressure of you selling them into your program. So whatever way you want to slice that is fine. I find that the best way to do it is to say something along the effect of, so what we're going to do today is guide you through this process, and together we will make a decision as to what the right plan is for you to achieve success, right? Something of that nature. But don't be afraid of saying that you're going to direct them in a direction that may not be working with you if you feel like that's right. Because if you felt like that was right, you would, right? If somebody came in for had an injury that you couldn't help, you would refer them to a PT. You wouldn't sell them, right? If somebody legitimately was on food stamps, you wouldn't sell them into your program, right? So, or if somebody came in and all they really wanted was an Access membership gym, and you realize that they're not really a good fit for your facility, you wouldn't sell them either. And I'm not saying this to tell you to turn people away in the meetings, but letting them know that you would do that if that was the right fit for them blows off the steam and allows them to accept the meeting for what it is, which is a guided path with a coach who is a professional who's going to tell them what they actually need, as opposed to somebody that's like a used car salesman that all they're trying to do is use tactics and strategies to convince somebody to hand over their money, right? So you can formulate different ways to say that, but I find that the most tactful or easiest way to do it is to say, I don't know if this is the right fit for you yet, but, right? But we've helped these people do it. So it's not necessarily you saying, work with us or don't, is you just saying, like, flat out being honest that you don't know if it's the right fit for them or not, right? And we want to get people into these meetings, and all the time we're like, oh, I want to close them that we are the best fit. We're the best thing for everyone. To be completely honest, our facilities are not the best fit for everyone. They aren't. They just aren't, right? They're the best fit for a lot of people, and we can help a lot of people, but they're not the best fit for everyone. Okay. So you just have to kind of get that in your mind and go, we're not for every single person, but we're for this select type of person that we want to help. Seems weird because you're trying to grow a business and you're trying to like always kind of be adding members to your facility to grow it and help more people, but it takes the pressure off of the meeting. So Hannah, talk to me a little bit about how that feels. Does that initial statement feel like odd for you to say, or what's the thought process there?
Yes, I definitely would have to like think about it more. The other thing I feel like is happening is people don't always see me as like their trainer or their coach. Like they just kind of see me as a sales person trying to sell them a package or something. Like, is there a way to kind of inject that into that first part to make them feel more comfortable?
Right. So that's the whole point of saying a statement that blows the steam off of the meeting. Because think about times when you've been sold something, right? And you have felt like, so Hannah, maybe you've purchased a used car at some point in your life, right? And had an experience with a salesperson who you viewed as a salesperson the entire time. Was that experience enjoyable?
Yeah, actually, I did just buy a car last year, but it was enjoyable. He really made me feel like he was more of like on my side.
And how did he do that?
Gosh, that was a whole year ago. I'd have to think about that.
Yes,
but definitely
right.
Very more like laid back. And he was younger too, so I feel like he kind of understood where I was coming from.
He understood where you were coming from. Exactly. Right. And maybe his age played a factor into it, but he made you feel comfortable, made you know, like, and trust him in a short period of time as to buying the vehicle, because he listened to your needs and directed you in a path that satisfied those needs. Right. So when we look at that, and we don't know the specifics of the conversation, but for somebody to go from, so you had a good experience, so we can take information from that. We want people to feel as if we are on their side the entire time. But if you're starting the conversation off like, I'm like, you're commission hungry and you're like, I want to sell this person into our program because our program is the best and you have to do our program, and this kind of nature where you're coming off that way, it doesn't leave somebody feeling like you're on their side. It leaves somebody feeling like you just want to close them. Right. So
yeah,
that's why we use the statement, I don't know if this is the fit for you yet, but right, we say something like that. You know, maybe you met with this guy, I'm just spitballing here, but maybe you met with this guy and you're like, hey, I'm looking for, maybe you knew what you were looking for. But you go there and you're like, I'm looking for this. And he's like, okay, let's see what we have. We'll take a look. We'll get some more information. Let's sit down and go over kind of what we have available and what's going to work for you and your financing and your this and your that. We'll just take a look at it. We'll just go through the process together, whatever, like very kind of casual, nonchalant, not this guy that's like runs up to you on the car dealership floor and goes, hey, what are you looking for? What's going on? Hey, let's get you in this. Oh, why don't we sit in this car? Why don't we sit in that car? Oh, you know, well, I can get you this for this much. Oh, what about this one? You know, like really frantic and just like trying to close the sale. It's more like, yo, let's go through the process and let's talk about what you really need so that we understand together if this is the right place for you to buy a car, if we have the thing that you want. And if we don't,
and I'm gonna jump in here really quick because I like that approach a lot better also for a lot of reasons. It's almost like, because you give the control almost to the client in that sense, where you're not pressuring them to buy. Whereas if you do exactly what Jimmy does, it feels very pressury to them. And you might not be trying to come off as being pressury and like putting that kind of pressure on them. You're just trying to move them down that line. But if you kind of step back and just say, hey, look, we might not be for you and you might have to go somewhere else. But by giving them like that ability to choose and say, well, this might not be for you, they're kind of like, well, what do you mean? Why isn't this for me? And they'll talk themselves kind of like into it at that point.
Right. And that's kind of what we're trying to get at. And Hannah, I know it feels weird. Like, because when I first started doing that, it felt weird to me. Like, why am I telling these people not to buy? But you're not telling them not to buy. You're telling them that they have decision, that they have the ultimate decision is what you're telling them. And you're guiding them to the ultimate decision by giving them your expert guidance to get to that end decision that's best for them, which ends up being with you once you explain it to them, right? It's weird. And it's in the beginning, it's hard to do.
That makes a lot of sense. Thanks.
Say that again.
Makes a lot of sense. Thanks.
Yeah. Hopefully it makes sense. If anybody's struggling with this, we can talk through it a little bit more. Sales is a combination of strategy and soft skills. So sometimes it's not like the X's and O's of training where you create a stimulus and you get a response, right? So there's a soft skill to it, which is sometimes hard to articulate. But if I'm not doing a good job of articulating anything, please let me know and we can kind of go through it. Or if you're still feeling like, you know, if anybody right now feels like, this is BS, I couldn't pull that off, or that doesn't make sense to me, or that doesn't work, then be honest and speak up and we can go through it and talk about why it works and how it works. I mean, it works for us. We have a 7-figure facility. So like and we close like when we're working hot, we close like 38 new members in a month. So like it works, right? But those are the numbers that back it up.
Jimmy, and just a general question here, just for like, so to kind of simplify it and kind of put tactics on this, how many like TPV stories on average would you use during a phone call? Like what's like a good amount? And how does somebody know listening to this if they're overdoing it?
That's good. So the way that we like to structure it is we typically will just use one TPV on the phone. And on the phone, it's kind of take or leave. Like you could do it on the phone or maybe not. That's not one that's crucial to use because that's a 15-minute conversation, right? So the phone call is not as crucial that you use TPVs. You can, if you feel like it's appropriate. In the meeting, I think you should always do it, and you should always do it one time, right? You do it too many times, TPVs in the in-person meeting, and the problem becomes that now they're on to you, right? They're like, oh, this person's just telling me that I'm like their other clients and this and this and that, because there's no way I could be like multiple people, even though the truth of the matter is people are more similar than you think. But I would just use one TPV. But when you're creating the divide between what you do and what other fitness businesses do, you could do 3 of them. Like, it just depends on what you find. At least one, but you could definitely do 3, like 3 statements of divergence between other providers and you, depending on what they've done or what they're doing. And not necessarily 3 different providers that they've used, but 3 different ways to create the divide between you and what they're doing, right? They're doing at-home workouts. They don't have accountability. Oh, we'll call you, right? They're doing at-home workouts. They don't have equipment availability. We have all this equipment available to you to make sure that you're actually progressing because you don't have enough weight at home, right? They have a home gym. They don't use it. Well, when you're here and they don't work out hard enough on their own. Well, when you're here, we've got to coach with you every step of the way to make sure you're working hard, right? So that's 3 right there where we're creating divide. So 1 to 3 on the creating divide, 1 TPV story only, and 1 time creating the buying atmosphere. And when you get back to the point where there's objections and things like that, you can create the buying atmosphere again at that point, right? So you can use that blowing off the steam again at the point where you're starting to get objections. Because you'd be like, hey, at this point, we figured out that you need some help, right? Only you can really decide if we're the right fit for you. But I know that we can help you because we've helped X amount of people just like you get to where you want to go. So what's the main thing holding you back, right? So we can use it again in an objection if we find that we're past the buying line or we're not quite there. We can use that creating the buying atmosphere again in the close, right? So I would use it at the beginning, and if you have to use it at the close, you can. And that will then kind of smooth it over. So 1 TPV, buying atmosphere at the beginning, maybe during objections, and then 1 to 3 divergent examples of what they're currently doing or they've done in the past and what you do.
Yeah, and I would just like to add on the phone call too, it's important to like set up the call, you know, and Jimmy mentioned this too, but setting up the call, you know, with that like intent. Okay, the goal of today is to find out more about you, so we don't have situations like what happened the other day where the person felt like they were being interviewed. So it's like, okay, we're asking you these questions because we want to make sure that we can help you here. And just kind of like making that come across as just genuine, not like restating a line. Just, hey, look, we're on the phone right now. I want to see if I can help you. So what are your goals and what are you trying to achieve? It can kind of set that up, you know, and if we think you're a good fit, then we'll invite you in for the next step.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that it's super easy to do, but it's just like that 1 or 2 sentences really makes you guys come across as more crisp and sharp.
There's a pre-frame to everything, and people don't like to be surprised, right? They don't like this gotcha kind of shit, right? None of you guys like it, right? When you feel like you've been got by somebody, right? So just tell them straight up what's going to happen, what the deal is, what's going on, right? What you're trying to do, you know? And when people, this is kind of an offshoot, but when people ask price on the phone for us, we kind of like push it off, and then because we're just trying to sell the meeting. So we push it off like 2 or 3 times before we share with them. And that's a little bit gotcha kind of stuff. But for us, it's like there's no value built on the phone. So it's like hard to, you know, so we just say like straight up, we go, we don't know on the phone. I don't know what the best program is for you. The coach that you meet with will better be able to walk you through our process and see if it's a good fit for you or not. Right? You're still kind of doing the same thing. So anyway, I digress. But anybody else?
Jimmy, do you want to try to role play it? see if we could kind of role play like a couple of lines here and there between them, just so they can get crisp on doing it.
Yeah, that's probably pretty valuable. So who's on the call? I mean, I'm on my phone, so I only see.
Oh, we got Laura. All right, so I'm just gonna pick two of you. So Laura, why don't you do it to Hannah? So what do you want them to do? What should we do here? How should we start this off?
So let's imagine that. I mean, I know we're doing it over Zoom, but let's imagine that this is because the in-person meeting is the better example of this. So, or the Zoom, whatever you guys do it on, right? So imagine you just met that client at the gym and you're taking them into the room in which you sell them, and then start from how you would open.
Like the assessment, like starting the assessment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. All right, Hannah. So, how our membership process works in the next 20 to 40 minutes, we're going to learn more about you and your goals and what it's going to take to get you there. So it's going to sound like a really involved process, but it's just to get to know you better and see what we could actually do for you and help you along this process. Okay. All right, let's meet your new trainers here. So I'm going to go through all the slides. I mean, I don't know when I would throw a story in.
So let's just start from the opening. So with your opening, after you say your scripted opening like that, what is the next thing that you say?
And then I say, okay, you ready to get started? And then I go to let's meet your new trainers and I show them the trainers and talk about that.
So what's the next thing that you would say from us, from what we just went over? After you say, hey, this is an involved process, it takes X amount of time, what's the next line that you would inject there to create a buying atmosphere?
I could say, I don't really know yet if we can. No, I don't know.
Okay, the easiest way to recite this, guys, and burn it into your brain is, so I'll be Laura. So, Mrs. Jones, this is how our process works. We're going to take you in, and this meeting is going to take anywhere between 30 and 45 minutes, whatever you said, 30 and 45 minutes. It may seem like a little bit of an involved process, but it's just so that we have enough information to know together what the right decision is for you to reach the goals that you're looking for. I don't know right now if it's the right fit yet, but together we'll walk through this process and determine what the right fit is for you to move forward and get the goals that you're looking for. Something like that.
Okay.
I don't know if it's the right fit yet, but.
Okay.
Simple, right? Just simplify it a little bit more. Because if you just think about that, then we can like start to inject this thing, right? You can say the extra stuff like, if I don't think it's the right fit, we'll point you in the direction, but that's kind of a lot of words. So start from the beginning, walk through that process and build your own way of saying, I don't know if it's the right fit yet, but okay.
Okay.
Start over.
All right, Hannah. So in the next 20 to 40 minutes, we're going to learn more about you and your goals and what it's going to take to get you to that next level. So it's going to sound like a really involved process, but this allows us to work with people on a very high level. I also don't know if it's the right fit yet for both of us, but we'll get to that point and we'll see how we could make it the right fit.
No.
Sure.
So we will determine together what the best path is for you to achieve your goals. Do you see how that sounds different?
Yeah, but we will determine together.
Yeah. We'll determine together. We'll walk through this process together. We'll make this decision together, right? So you're taking them from being here, looking at each other, to being here. Like if you can see my hands, right?
Yeah.
This is kind of weird to do, but like this is a sales meeting. This is a coaching, this is a coaching guided meeting. You're swiveling the chair to be alongside of them. You're sitting at a booth at a restaurant and you just went from being across from them to at the same side of the booth with them.
Okay.
We're
So I don't know if
walking
it's
this
the right
path.
fit yet, but we'll determine together
What the
which-
best path is to get you to your goals.
Greg, does that make sense to you, buddy, as you're listening to this?
Sorry, coming off mute. Yeah, it makes sense. Kind of push them onwards a little bit more, give them more information, make them feel comfortable.
You want to give it a quick shot, Greg? I know you don't have the presentation in front of you, but
I like what part? Just the opening or the whole thing?
Yeah, just the opening.
Like Jimmy said, just think about like you're sitting across from them, and now you're just going to move to their side. How do you move to their side?
Where am I starting? I'm just confused where I'm starting from. Like what's going on?
So Greg, start from an introduction. So like you're introducing, like imagine you're in a sales meeting, you're starting one. You're starting from the introduction, you say your opening line, and then you create a buying atmosphere.
So Mr. Jones, we're just going to make sure this is the right fit for you before we start anything. We're going to make sure that we're a good fit for you and you're a good fit for us before we get into this. And if not, I'll point you in the direction of which way will work best for you. And then
you're still sitting across from them. So now how do you get on the same side?
Move the chair a little closer.
No, not physically, like in the conversation. So there's the but, right? Now, but we'll find out during this process together. We can make that decision together.
Oh, okay. That's what I mean. Okay.
You're missing the but. Yes, you're missing the but, and then moving the chair to their side, like Jimmy said.
Okay.
So Laura, go ahead.
All right, Jimmy. So in the next 20 to 40 minutes, we're going to learn more about you and your goals and what it's going to take to get you to that next level. It's going to sound like a really involved process, and it is, but this allows us to work with people on a very high level. I also don't know if it's the right fit yet, but we'll determine together what the best path is to get you to your goals.
Oh, music to my ears.
Excellent. Yeah, good job.
That feels so good. So
excellent.
So what I want you guys to do when you're role playing, okay, because I do this with everybody. When you're sitting in that seat where you're being sold to, think about it as a real situation and adopt those feelings in yourself as the person being sold to, because you can give great feedback to the person selling you. Because I felt comfortable because I put myself in that mindset where Laura's actually selling me, right? She said it that way. Internally, I felt comfortable and excited about the process, right? So like, Greg, if I say that same thing to you, so Greg, I'm actually selling you on something, okay? So put yourself in that mindset really quickly, all right? Okay. Now, I'm going to say, so Greg, we're going to walk you through this process, and we are actually the best facility around. So let's just get you through this process and get started. We'll help you with your goals. How's that feel?
Yeah, not so great.
Not great.
Wouldn't feel too confident.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, how does this feel? All right, Greg, I'm excited to take you through this process. The way this process works is we're first going to take you into our eval room. We're going to ask you a couple questions about your goals. Then we're going to evaluate your movement pattern to pair you with exercises that work best for you and are specifically programmed to help you start moving and feeling better right away. And at the end of our meeting, what we're going to do is we're going to determine what the best fit is for you to achieve these goals. Right now, I don't know what the best fit is for you, but together we'll walk through that process and make sure that we land on something that works for both of us. Sound good?
Yeah, a lot more friendly.
Do you see the difference?
Yeah.
You have to feel the difference. So when you're doing role playing, guys, feel like you're actually being sold. You feel it in your gut. And it's weird because we all know each other and we're just like faking it, but you still feel it in your gut, right?
All right, Hannah, you're up. Why don't you do it to, let's see, what doesn't matter, Greg or Jimmy?
Okay.
So,
All
dude.
right, Greg. I'm not sure if we'll be a good fit for each other, but we're going to go through the process together today to determine that and if we can help you reach your goals. And if not, I'll do my best to point you in the right direction. Sound like a plan?
Yeah, sounds good to me. So I'm going to keep going with it.
No,
So
you're
we're
good.
going to go. Okay.
Sorry.
Say it one more time. Do it one more time.
Okay.
Just do a general opening, Hannah.
I don't really have an opening for consoles. I kind of just introduce myself.
Well, we identified a hole.
You guys have this whole thing written out. I don't have anything.
You could do both, Hannah. You could do both. Introduce yourself. Hey, I'm Hannah. Nice to meet you. It was great talking to you. So the way this process works is today we're going to be sitting down and blah, 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 blah. And we don't know if this is going to be a good mutual fit, but we'll be able to find this out over the next couple of minutes if we can work together and blah, blah, blah. So you can do both. You just introduce and then go into the introduction line and then the but, move your chair over to their side and just add that line in.
All right.
So go ahead, try again.
All right, Greg. So for the next hour, we're going to talk a little bit more. We're going to do an in-body scan. We'll do a movement screen. Right now, I'm not sure if we'll be a good fit for each other, but we're going to go through the process together to determine that and if we can help you reach your goals. And if not, I'll do my best to point you in the right direction. Sound like a plan?
Sounds good to me.
Good.
We're working on it. We're working on it.
Ellen, Ellen, can you go and show us your stuff?
I have a question actually.
Yeah, go ahead, Laura.
Because if you're doing this on the phone, right? Because you talk to them first before you're seeing them. So aren't you kind of telling them that on the phone too?
The phone call is more so not exactly. So, all right, my dog is probably going to knock my phone over. So when we look at the phone call, the way we have to think about it is, excuse me, the phone call is to schedule the meeting and get them excited for the meeting, right? So the phone call is just, we're going to determine to a degree you're doing it because they're like, hey, we're just going to ask a few questions about you just to determine where your starting point is. And if I find that it's a good fit, then we'll invite you in for a consult.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what you have to compartmentalize it into is, like we talked about this morning, Anthony and I did, but the ad is to get the click. You guys don't really think about that. The click is to get the lead, right? Once you get the lead, then the point of the lead is to get them on the phone. Once you get them on the phone, then the goal is to get them scheduled for an appointment, then to show for the appointment, then to close at the appointment. So each step has its own process because you're trying to sell each portion of the step or each step of the process, right?
Yeah.
You're not just selling the program off of the lead, right? It doesn't work. So you're warming them up to that process. So it's like, if I think it's a good fit and I think that we can help you, then we'll invite you in for a consult. You invite them for a consult, they sit down, and then you go, again, I don't know if it's the right fit yet, but today we'll determine that together.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.